We're looking at Mark chapter 11, verse 1 to 11. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two of his disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and just as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you doing this?' tell them the Lord needs it, and will send it back here shortly." They went and found a colt outside in the street, tied to a doorway. As they untied it, some people standing there asked, "What are you doing untying that colt?" They answered as Jesus had told them to, and the people let them go. When they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks over it, he sat on it. Many people spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches they had cut in the fields. Those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest." Jesus entered Jerusalem and went to the temple. He looked around at everything, but since it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. I really like this. It's a simple passage. There's not really a lot in it, but just the sense of Jesus having some kind of revelation given to him. And so Jesus comes, he's God in man form, and yet I believe through the times that he spent kind of in prayer and communion with God, God kind of reveals the next thing that is to happen. And so Jesus understands the scenario. He knows the colt's going to be there. He tells the disciples, the way we read it, he's like, "Oh, this is going to happen." They're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And maybe they just got so used to him doing amazing things. And so they go to the city, and it's exactly as Jesus said. And for Jesus, a lot of his ministry was kind of secretive or low-key. Like, he never went around to build up crowds. Crowds kind of got built up around him often when he was trying to just hang with the disciples or sit with a smaller group. And so, like, Jesus often tells people, like, don't tell anyone this happened, keep this to yourself, don't reveal this until later or whatever. And so this is kind of like a little bit of a difference, like a moment in his story, kind of like his baptism where there's kind of a glimpse into who Jesus is exactly. So the baptism, you have God like speaking out, "This is my son, and I'm well pleased with him." And so now here you've got this like little kingly moment that's kind of snuck into the story of Jesus, where most of his life is not being a king. It's about serving. It's about washing feet. It's about walking around and just being and teaching and doing miracles. But now there's this moment where he allows it and he invites it, and it feels like it's kind of like just a snapshot or a glimpse or a trailer of what is to come. Just letting the disciples know, actually, this is who I am. This is my identity. Just know it. And I just think it's a powerful story. And I think it's a reminder to us to remember who Jesus is. He reveals himself in many roles. He calls us brother. He calls us child. He calls us friend. But we can develop a sense of flippancy often. Because we focus on Jesus as friend, he becomes my buddy Jesus, or he becomes my homie. What's it? Jesus is my homeboy. And I think we've got to be careful with that stuff, because a friend is that sense of intimacy and welcoming in, but Jesus is king, and we need to remember that. We need to have a sense of respect. We need to remember to be awestruck. We need to just love him and be devoted to him. Your buddy, you're less inclined to obey. You're less inclined to do what he says. You're less inclined to take him seriously. And so there's that measure of Jesus calling us friend and the intimacy that's there. But there's like, I'm the king, and you better do what I say. Unfortunately, what he says is love people. Like, my commands are this: love people, love God, love people. So it's not like, oh, you must obey Jesus. It is that. But the stuff he gives us to do is great. And it's good, and just a lovely glimpse of here comes the king. This is who Jesus is. Let's take a moment to remember that, and maybe that's something we should do every day. Just take a moment, just remember, yeah, he's my friend, I'm his child, but he created the universe, and he is God, and he is awesome, and we should probably remember that.